So I had a big drama this week. I seem to have a lot of big dramas. None of them of my own making. But I went to work, and about 15 minutes after I got to work, I realized I would not be able to do work because I did not feel well in a major way. So I drove home, laid down, took a nap, woke up. There was no water, none. So we were looking at 95-degree weather. I don't feel well. There's no water. Now, this happens periodically. The tank runs dry, or there is something's the matter. But this was more serious than usual because it took over 3 days to resolve. So I'll tell you how I manage and what it's like to be without water, and what you should think about as you plan your prepping or plan your water supplies or whatever, because it was very revelatory to me what 3 days, how much water I actually used for 3 days, and what happened, and what sort of situations I got into because I didn't have water unexpectedly. One of the first problems was bathroom and personal hygiene. I really like to take showers, and I'm a very clean person, and this was an issue. I mean, one day I had taken a shower that morning, so I was like, okay. The next day I still wasn't well, so I stayed at home. By day 3, I was back at work, and I ended up taking showers at my client's house. She was really nice about it. I said, listen, I don't need water. So before I left, I'd run to the shower. I cleaned her shower anyway, so you know, it was no big deal. She was really, actually very sweet about it. And you know, they say, okay, you can use wipes or you know, whatever, but for me, those wipes just don't do it. I don't feel clean washing my hands with wipes. I don't feel my hands are completely clean. So I did use some of my water reserves. I did have some water reserves for just rinsing my hands off and doing stuff like that, because I just did not feel that those wipes were sufficient. The second issue was the toilet. I live alone, so that's okay. I'm sort of the yellow, let it mellow, and brown, flush it down. I think we all know what I'm talking about, because I am in a water scarce area. So that's okay for a while, but every once in a while I flush. So I ended up having to use some of my water reserves from time to time to just flush the toilet. And what I ended up also doing is I just poured bleach in the toilet for the between times. And that actually kept the odor down, and by the time I was done, I was able to flush my toilet. It was very clean. So that's how I handled that. Cleaning the house was an issue. I don't know if you recall, a few days ago, I did a video about a haul I'd made at Home Depot, and it included, let me show you, these wet mop wipes things. And I said I didn't really like one-use items. Well, when you don't have any water, these one-use items are wonderful. I also have the dry ones, and I could just, you know, clean the floor real quick and have it clean and not have a pile of rags or whatever that I had no way of washing or cleaning. So these were fantastic. What was also fantastic to have on hand were these. I use these for cleaning the countertops and all that. I usually use soap and water, but this was fantastic. Again, a no water solution. When the water went out, I had a sink full of dirty dishes because I just left to go to work, and I was going to do them when I came back. So because I wasn't feeling good, I continued to use some dishes. I just was so tired. So by the time all was said and done, I had a really big sink full of dirty dishes. So I kind of wasn't sure what to do. I could have probably taken them to a friend's house, but I finally remembered that when I'd gone to the dump, I had purchased this. And I had made a joke about using it to wash dishes if I ever went camping. And then I realized that where I live is a campsite, so there's an expression, from your mouth to God's ear. So he heard me and he put me to the test with that, and this was fantastic. I threw all my dishes in here. I warmed up water in on the stove and just lots of detergent and poured it on top, and then I did a rinse and finished up all my dirty dishes, got them all cleaned, and maybe not as clean as I would have if I'd done you know, with all the water I could possibly use. But this was wonderful. It's really big. It has the handles. It has the bottom drain, and it's thick. You know, I was going to get like just one of those plastic square containers, but those are really weak, and you know, they bulge out. This I had all sorts of stuff in here, and it kept its structural integrity. It was very thick. It's very heavy. And I just threw it on the floor and poured water all over it, and it was fantastic. So if you are planning to not have water, whether you're camping or not, something like this is great. This would have been great too for cleaning myself, bathing myself, you know, just to fill the thing up with water and soap. It kept the heat, and there's plenty of water. So this was definitely a good buy. I didn't realize when I bought it just how good a buy it was going to be. I also have plenty of single-use utensils and bowls and stuff like that, and cups. So I use those definitely. I had one cutting board and one knife I used for everything, and just rinse it off very, with the minimum amount of water. It just kept it simple with the dishes, especially after that big dishwashing escapade. So those were handy. I always have those on tap there. So that was good. It helped me keep the dishes down to a minimum, especially after I had just gone through that big washing drama. One problem that I did have was that I had food in the refrigerator, and generally I go through and I finished up and I clean it out and I clean the dishes out. I had to leave stuff in the refrigerator even though it needed to be tossed or composted, because again, I did not want to add to the burden of dishes that I needed to wash. So I just kept everything in the refrigerator. When I got my water back on, I was able to take everything out and take it to the garbage, and then, you know, put stuff in the sink and clean it out. So that was kind of an unexpected issue there, was the issue of stuff in the refrigerator or stuff that was half empty or whatever that I needed to toss, and I had no place to put it because I couldn't wash the containers. Laundry wasn't an issue. I didn't need to do laundry, but it could have become an issue, and again, that would have been a drain on the water. So, but I didn't need to do that, and if I had, I could have gone to someone's house or the laundromat or something. That was like not a problem. But again, it's something you need to take into consideration. Another element were my plants. I've got seedlings growing. I've got onions growing. I've been posting things on on my community tab of stuff which is starting to come up, and wow, suddenly I can't take care of them. I did take care of them. I used some of my water, and fortunately on day two, the evening of day two, we had these 2 really hot days. It cooled down, and we had some rain, which was like a godsend, kind of an unseasonal rain. So that was great, and by the next day, my water was back. So another thing I'm going to be doing is getting a smaller tank just for my plants. So that if this happens again, I don't think it will, but who knows, that I'll have a way to take care of my plants and my vegetables and all that stuff, even if there's no water or low water. So that's definitely something I had to think about also. So 3.5 days in, the water problem was solved. It was a clogged line that was very hard to identify, and I'm terribly grateful to my neighbor who's been here his whole life. Actually, I own his great-grandparents' house. So he was really helpful, and we found the issue and were able to resolve it. Now, I have off-grid water. It's gravity-fed, and the whole thing is a very fascinating process, but this is not the first time it's happened. So I'm now, in addition to the tank and all that I'm using already, I'm already talking to someone who is able to, who is going to take advantage of the fact I have a natural spring and a well on my property. So we're going to be hooking up a tank on the property also. So in addition to the tank up the road, I'll have a tank at my home, and we'll be doing a couple things with both tanks, including putting on some, getting fixtures for a fire hose and stuff like that, which is something I don't have. They don't have it up the road, and I don't have anything like that at my house. And I think that in itself is worth what happened, just so that I could upgrade and see, because this was one of my worries. The 5,000 gallon tank up the road, empty. If there was a fire, there was nothing of the fire department to draw from, not just for me, but for anyone around there. It was not the most pleasant 3.5 days, but it has led and pushed me to do something that I had not, it had been on my mind, but I hadn't felt the complete urgency for. But after 3.5 days of no water, I certainly felt urgency for it in the middle of a very hot couple of days where the fire danger was high. And so I think this is basically going to lead to good things. Now, I ended up using about, I think, 3.5 days, about 7 gallons of water. I had the big gallon size. Some I refilled, some I purchased, I'd already purchased some. I went back and refilled. And so I used 7 gallons. Now, part of the time I wasn't at home, so again, I was showering elsewhere, I was drinking water elsewhere. I do not think, even though the CDC recommends a gallon a day, maybe that's just for drinking water, but for living, it is not enough. And if I, as one person who, I lead a very simple life and, a very simple lifestyle, if 7 gallons was barely enough, and again, that does not include showering, then I think that for anyone else, you'll need a lot more water than you think you do. It's amazing how we take for granted the magic power of water to make our lives better. You have to look at all the water needs in your house and your outside, and what can go and what can stay. So I survived. Everyone survived. But I'm really grateful I don't have to do that again. Thank you so much for watching.